So muli po, maraming salamat po sa mga possible na listener po. Sana po magkasama-sama tayo muli sa hindi naman siguro sobrang tagal, mga maximum na siguro na ito mga 35 minutes to at the most 40 minutes. Pero siyempre, kung magkasarapan, di gawin nating isang oras. At nag-aantay tayo, may naantay tayong kasama, si Infinite Streams. Ito na yata. Yun, ito na siya. Okay, kabsat. Salamat, nakarating ka. So, ngayon nga po, may kinig tayo ng isang debate na tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. Although, hindi natin ma-share yung hindi natin ma-share yung video kasi, alam mo na, baka makopyright tayo. So, audio lang, tapos picture-picture na lang kung sakali. Para at least ma-appreciate natin, tsaka ma-appreciate ng mga magiging audience natin. Salita ka nga, para narinig ka. Hello? Test mic, test mic.
Kapsat.
Yun!
Okay ang mic.
Pasok!
Bakit walang cam sa akin?
Oo nga, ba't wala kang cam? Daya mo unfair yan.
Inubo na laptop ko ito. Sige lang, go lang. I-count ko ito, i-refresh.
Ano ba yan? Ako lang nakakamera. Daya naman. Daya mo, kapsat ha. Subukan ko nga at, nawala ka na. Nalaglag ka na naman. O sige, refresh ka muna. So, ito mga kababayan, ayan, nagbalik at the stage. O, ganun pa rin, wala pa rin camera, kabsat.
Sa ibang laptop ko kasi walang sounds, walang audio. Yung old laptop ko. Sige na lang, kahit walang cam.
Sige. Sila nga, walang video eh. Picture lang i-show ko eh. Pero maganda to, kabsat. Sigurado, gaganahan ka rito mo. Gusto mo tong natin.
Sayang, ang gwapo ko, sana.
Sayang ba?
Sige, continue lang.
Sige, mag-comment ka habang tumatakbo yung mag-signal ka sa akin na chat tayo, private chat. Pag sabi mo, stop ko yung audio, i-stop ko para magbigay ka ng komento mo. Ako, magbibigay din ako ng komento ko.
So yung kuhan ko, yung signal ko, kuhan lang. Stop lang.
Ayos naman.
Sige.
So, simulan ko muna. Ano ko muna to I-share ko muna to. So, eto, recent interview to. Bali, mga kababayan, this was done like 2 days ago. In-interview ng isang media, CGTN. Interview niya si Klaus Lares, tapos to si Herman Tew, eto si Yan, tsaka to si Elmer Tangen ba yan? Basta, yung tatlo dyan, medyo, pati yung host, medyo pro-China na yan. Yan na, spoiler natin dyan. Pro-China yung apat na yan. So, siguro, kaya nasabi kong 3 against 1 kasi mostly nagsasalita nun, tsaka pumapabor sa China yung tatlo eh. Tapos etong isa, yung Klaus Lares. Siya yung medyo lumalaban para sa atin na professor sa USA. So, nakakalungkot lang dito, kabsat, which accepted na rin natin, tanggap na rin natin na ganun talaga. Siguro, ganun na talaga ang buhay. May mga kababayan tayo na pro-China at dito, damang-dama talaga ang pagka-pro-China na ito ni Herman Tew Laurel. Okay. Sige.
Kapsat, i-share mo na sa GC.
Alin, tong
Itong live mo.
Sige. Naka-share na siya.
Sige.
So, eto nga, kabsat. Ayan na. So, simulan na natin ito. Testing natin kung may audio ka marinig.
Who's making waves in the South China Sea? China?
Meron naman, kabsat? Narinig?
Meron.
Sige. So, eto na tayo. So, yung nagsasalita, alisin na natin tong isa. So, ready kayo mga kabsat ha. Medyo nakaka-high blood to, pero tanggap-tanggapin lang natin ng konti. So, ito yung nagsasalita.
Philippines or the US, once again, some uninhabited reef in the South China Sea becomes flashpoint in the press. China is blamed for bullying its small neighbor, encroaching on international freedom of navigation, and being unrestrained, among others. A CNN reporter even happened to be on site, making a case against China to the global audience. So let's dive into it today. The reef, called Renai Jiao by China, or Second Thomas Shoal in English, is at the center of the dispute.
Oh, mga kababayan, kabsat na napansin mo, etong Chinese na host na to, ang pagkakasabi niya lang doon sa island, Renai Jiao o Second Thomas Shoal, hindi niya mention na ayungin. So, doon pa lang, naramdaman mo na medyo bias talaga to, tsaka walang respeto to doon sa, sa bansa natin eh. Kumbaga sa wala siyang point na nire-recognize niya yung yung presence ng bansa natin na mas malapit doon sa lugar na yun kasi ang mas nire-respeto niya yung US. Ano masasabi mo doon, Kapsat?
Siyempre, Kapsat, Chinese nga.
Oh, di ba? Pero di ba, tamo, since siguro kaya recognize niya na
in fairness, Kapsat, maganda siya.
Yan talaga mga Chinese, pa-peke ng mga beauty. So, syempre, in community of countries around the world, syempre mas ma-recognize mo talaga yung malakas eh. Kaya ganyan yung mga lokong yan. So, siguro China feeling niya, ang level ko lang talaga si Amerika. Kaya kung ano lang yung term ni Amerika, tsaka yung mga English-speaking country, yun lang ang gagamitin ko. Pero yung term na tawag ng Pilipinas, hindi namin na-recognize yan kasi mahinang bansa yan siguro. Gan siguro ang niya. So, tuloy tayo.
It's not just your nondescript reef lost in the middle of the sea, but one with a Filipino warship grounded on it for 25 years. Over the past year, the waters became choppier and skirmishes have been erupting much more frequently in the vicinities. What are the facts? What are fantasies? Who is the agent provocateur? Welcome to this special edition of The Point with me, Li Xin, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm pleased to be joined from Haikou, southernmost China's province of Hainan, by Yang Yan, director of the Research Center of Oceans Law and Policy at the National Institute for South China Sea Studies. Here in the studio, Ina Tangen, senior fellow at Taihe Institute. From Washington, D.C., Klaus Laris, a fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Center, and the Richard M. Krasner, distinguished professor of history and international affairs at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Last but not least, from Manila, the Philippines, by Herman Teo Lauro, president of a Manila-based think tank, Asian Century Philippines Strategic Studies Institute. The warmest welcome to all of you, everyone. Now, Aina, let me go to you first. In March alone, there have been 2 clashes or confrontations between Chinese and Filipino vessels near the Renai Jiao. We all saw the footages. So what happened in a nutshell?
Well, the Philippines is...
So far, Kabsat, walang mention talaga kahit Thomas Shoal. Hindi nila minimension. No? Talagang Renai Jiao, yun lang. Wala nang iba. Siguro understandable naman kasi in-check nga. Sabi mo nga, in-check. Pero talagang hindi nila i-recognize at least kahit Thomas Shoal, hindi nila tatawagin Thomas Shoal. Kasi mas i-highlight nila lalo na ang audience na dito, mga kababayan nila eh. So i-highlight talaga nila na ang bansang to ay yung island na to, Renai Jiao. Hindi to ayungin, hindi to Thomas Shoal, Renai Jiao to. Tuloy tayo.
Intent on making sure that this is an issue, and that seems to be much more for domestic politics, but also trying to get more bases and support from the United States. The question is security more important against China, which has not started a war, or is economics. When the Philippines, it appears to be doing very well last year, projected to do very well this year, why are they doing this? And many people are asking the same questions. Why is this a priority when you have a country with one of the worst Gini indexes, the disparities between rich and poor in the ASEAN grouping?
Pinintasan pa Pilipinas, kabsat, netong speaker na to. Sabi kabsat, sa buong Asian daw, ang Pilipinas daw yung pinakamalaki yung gap between mayaman at mahirap. Pero bakit daw pinaprioritize nila tong gulo sa West Philippine Sea? When in fact,
Kuhan kita Kapsat. May alam ka ba sa yung 2020 pa lang, then natapos 2023, may oil rig na sa Hainan province, part ng West Philippine Sea.
grabe.
50 billion barrels. Yung sinabi nila noon, 50 billion barrels, sa kanila na yun.
Grabe. Biro mo yung Kapsat.
Yung channel, sige, isend ko sa iyo, Kapsat, yung channel na official na kuhan nila na government channel.
Grabe. So, doon pa lang makikita mo na talaga no? Dinadivert nila ilalayo nila yung interest dun sa lugar na yun. Kasi nga, maraming possible na yaman na makukuha dun di ba? Kaya sila, sisiraan yung mga activity sa loob, kagaya ng pinaggagawa ngayon nila Harry Roque. Na
for my opinion, Kapsat, for my opinion for my opinion lang, ang totoong merong per barrels yan sa West Philippine Sea. Sa may Pag-asa, yung shoal, no? Andyan yun, no?
Grabe.
Quadrillion. For my opinion. Then, sinabi nila billion lang.
Grabe. Kaya talagang talagang siguro kakapala na talaga nila din yung mukha nila na talagang
makapal talaga. Makapal kasi kahit sa Pacific, yung Benham rice, Philippine rice, deuterium, yun, mahal yun. Water base. Pang nasa pang rocket. Swapang
ang dami na nilang natural resources, ang laki-laki ng lupa nila. Talagang gusto nila makuha pa rin yung talagang napakaganid. So, ito yung sinasabi na itong isang to. Sabi niya, imbis daw pagfokusan ng mga problema internally, yung buhay ng mahihirap. Kung ano yung script nila, nila SAS, nila Roque, nila Aimee, yung pagmahal na bilhin.
Ay, sige, sabi ka ng SAS, ha? SAS? Hindi ako natulog nakatulog ako, hindi naman. Nakatulog ako around 3 a.m. Mga 2 a.m. biglang sa YouTube ko, bumalaga si Joey. Yung babae ba, yung partner ni Kokolokoy ba? Nagmarites ang mga kagwang. May tanod daw, may tanod. Alam ko yun, sinong tanod. Siniraan nila si Gibo.
Grabe, no? Grabe. So tuloy natin Kapsat yan. Sabi niya nga yan, imbis na napag-focusan.
So basically we were seeing a Filipino ship bumping into Chinese vessel there. But we'll get to the the details on the sea.
Ulitin natin.
Sige, ulitin.
Sabi ng babae, ang kapal na mukha niya. Alam mo sabi, Kapsat? Sabi ng babae, tingnan natin. Ano sabi niya?
Mabilis magsalita, Kapsat.
In the ASEAN grouping.
So basically we were seeing a Filipino ship bumping into Chinese vessel there. But we'll get to...
We're basically seeing Filipino vessel bumping into Chinese. Wow! Kapal na mukha na ito, Kapsat. Tayo pa daw bumabangga. Tayo pa daw ang
baka yung di ba may video tayo? Yung parang may foam? Yung sa Navy?
Diba? Oo.
Yun ata.
Pero, di ba, kaya naman nagkakagano'n dahil lumaharang sila di ba? Kung hindi sila pumupwesto doon sa harapan tapos biglang humihinto, hindi naman magkakagano'n eh. Actually, gumagawa nga ng paraan yung Pilipino para hindi siya maano eh, mag
Sa totoo lang, Kabsat, yung Navy natin, parang, parang tayo lang. Gigi na yun.
sige, tuloy-tuloy ka, Sad.
The details on the sea later. But here is how China has been responding. On March the 24th, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says China is willing to properly resolve disputes through dialogue and negotiation with the Philippines. However, the Philippines, acting in bad faith, has attempted.
Kabsat, tayo pa daw nag-act bad faith. Diba?
Ano kayang feeling bad faith?
Sa kaya nakatira to. Ano kaya yun? Diba?
Sige, tuloy mo, Kabsat. Sarap
Sabi
kurutin
niya,
pa.
willing daw mag-resolve ng dispute. Yun naman yung usual na dialogue, tapos negotiation. Negotiation na pabor sa kanila. Kasi hindi naman magkakaganito yung problema kung hindi maganda yung negotiation na pinapresenta nila eh. Kung tama yung negotiation na sinasabi nila na yan, parehas, siguro hindi darating itong problema to, pero siguro yung mga proposal nila puro pabor sa kanila. Kaya noong 2023 nung pumunta si BBM sa China, pagbalik niya, biglang punta agad ng Amerika. Kasi siguro nabwisit siya doon sa in-offer na proposal na ito, mga loko na to.
Kahit ako naman si BBM Kabsat, papunta akong US kasi anong choice natin? Kasi maliit lang tayo, wala tayong warfare na mga armas.
Tama, Kabsat. So, tuloy natin.
To illegally send construction materials to its so-called grounded military vessel on Reng-ai Reef to reinforce it into permanent facilities. China will by no means sit idly by. Yang, let me go to you for Yang, sorry. Let me go to you for what is all about this vessel that's been grounded. You don't see in the footages on the press so much.
Yes, actually, I think the fundamental reason what is happening recently is the Philippines, the Marcos government is trying to change the status quo in the South China Sea by making the ship BRP of Sierra Mandra a permanent occupation on the Second Thomas Shoal by sending all.
Change the status quo, Kabsat. Baguhin daw yung status quo. Ano ba yung status quo dyan sa dagat? Siguro alalahanin natin bago pa mag Duterte, bago pa Pinoy. Kasi ang naalala ko diyan, Kabsat, noong mga panahong yun, tayo pa nga nanguhuli ng wala yung mga Coast Guard din. Yun ang status quo noon, 'di ba? 'Di ba, Kabsat? Yun ang status quo. Itong status quo na status ko na sinasabi nila na ito, ngayon lang nangyari ito, yung panahon lang ni Duterte na maraming barko ng incheck, maraming mga militia vessel. Pero,
Kapsat, yung status ko nila, status lang for sa kanila, walang ko. Alam
diba?
na.
Status ko nila ko. Status ko lang.
Status lang nila, walang ko.
Ang kapal talaga, kakapal na mukha na ito mga, hirap nila magsalita. Tuloy. So yun daw, binabago daw yung status quo na ini-enforce yung barko na nakasadsad, binabago yung sitwasyon, binabago yung status.
Those construction materials. So this is something that I think is trying to change.
So how come the ship? Yeah, how come the ship was grounded on the Reng-ai Reef 25 years ago in 1999? Could you just very briefly give us the background there?
Yes, 25 years ago, the ship was grounded on Reng-ai Reef with the excuse of a mechanical fault. And then the then president promised to tow the ship away, but yet it's still there 25 years later.
Was it an accident? Was it accident or was it intentional? Did anybody know?
Tiis-tiis lang konti.
I personally think it's intentional with the excuse of a mechanical fault.
But what's the point? What has been the explanation from the Filipino side about this ship having an accident, or did they ever deny that it was intentional?
Sabihin mo, Kapsat, comment ka.
Well, to me, I
Kapsat.
think back then they were
Stop.
trying to.
Ano masabi mo, Kapsat?
Akala ko na nakita yung message stop. Yung grounded ba? Ano naman gusto nila? Sila mag-grounded o kita? West Philippine Sea yun, hindi yung South China Sea. In the map, totoo, walang West Philippine Sea. Pero sa UNCLOS, rule na yun. Di ba? Anong gusto nila? Sila lang mag-grounded? 3 ng artificial nila na naval bases.
Tama.
Gusto nila. Grabe.
Kapal ng mukha talaga.
Sige, tuloy, Kapsat.
Di ba? Tsaka kung sabihin na medyo nabudol sila na sila nanguna nga ng budol sabi nila, silungan lang daw ng mga mangingisda nila. Tapos yung isa, yung sa Fiery Cross Reef, sabi nila, lang daw, service. Oy, Arin 2 cents, hello. Thank you so much. Salamat sa pagbisita. Maganda topic na to, Arin 2 cents. Nakikinig tayo sa usapan. So, tuloy natin Sabi nyo sa Fiery Cross Reef, lang daw, weather station lang. Pero, para sa UN, yung pala, militarized din nila. So, tuloy natin.
Occupy more inhabited features in the South China Sea and trying to make a new status quo by occupying the second Thomas Shore.
All right, let's get the Filipino perspective. Mr. Herman Tiu Loro, what has been your knowledge of the story about the ship that is the excuse of all the drama that's been unfolding over the 25 years? What's the Filipino story?
Well, first thing that is very important to keep in mind is that we have had peace and quiet in relation to this Ayungin Shoal called in the Philippines or Second Thomas Shoal for the past 25 years. And all this trouble started only in 2023 when the Americans introduced a project called Project Mushu, which is intended...
Kapsat, nainiwala ka dito. Sabi ni Neto,
nagsimula yan, Kapsat? Anong name yan?
Si Herman Chu Laurel.
Ay, Chu!
Oh.
Chu, insip.
Diba?
Sige, continue.
Sabi niya, nagsimula lang daw talaga ang gulo noong 2023. Sabi niya yan. Nung nagbago yung polisiya ni Marcos na dikta ng US. Talaga ba? Nagsimula talaga ang gulo noong 2023? Samantalang noong 2022 hanggang noong panahon ni Duterte, may mga gulo-gulo na dyan. Di nga lang nabobroadcast, di ba?
Kapsat, sa pagkakaalam ko, pasensya yung Tagalog. Bisaya kasi. Yung itong tune na to, parang anti yun. Yung anti-Marcos ata ito. For me, sa research ko. Parang na-remember ko na.
Pero di ba, mali naman sila ng ginesin. Kung ang gines nila dyan, kahit paano sila Heydarian, kaya sila, si Batong Bakal. Yan ang dapat i-gines nila dyan.
Si Darian, okay si Darian.
Diba? Ito, napaka labo ng pinagsasabi niya. Sabi
Mind is that we have had peace and quiet in relation to this Ayungin Shoal called in the Philippines or Second Thomas Shoal for the past 25 years. And all this trouble started only in 2023 when the Americans introduced a project called Project Mushu, which is intended, they say, to exact reputational cost on China by what they call assertive transparency, meaning propaganda. Now, I was a confidant of the President of the Philippines at that time, 1999 to the rest of the decade of the first 2000s. And I personally know that, and President Estrada at that time confided in me that he did commit to pull the ship out. And that was grounded in order to have a claim on that area. So this is confirmed by many other testimonies, and there was a debate at that time between some hawkish faction of the Philippine government, represented by the Defense Secretary, then Secretary Orly Mercado, and the Foreign Secretary at that time, Domingo Siason, the late
Sabi lang, ang galing niya, Kabsat. Parang sa pananalita niya, nandun na talaga siya. Parang nandun siya sa nagtatalo si Mercado tsaka si Domingo Siason, yung gabinete ni Era. Parang nandun siya.
Kapsat.
Oh.
Wait muna, magkuhanta ko sa cellphone ko kasi yung laptop gagamitin ng pamangkin ko.
Sige. Antayin kita. Balik ka, ha? Sige. So yun, ang tigas talaga ng mukha na itong Herman Q. Laurel na to. Biro mo yun, mga kababayan. Binentang-benta niya talaga ang Pilipinas. Kumbaga, pinalalabas niya na nung panahon ni Erap, talaga nagkaisa na aalisin yung barko. Tapos pinagtalunan pa daw ni Domingo Siason tsaka ni ni Orly Mercado, yung defense secretary noon, na hindi daw dapat, di ba? Antay talaga. Sobrang kapal ng mukha na itong hype na to. Tuloy natin.
Siason, who was more dovish, but President Estrada himself was very friendly to President Chiang Jae-min at the time, and he told me that he was getting a lot of loans from President Chiang Jae-min, and he did commit to pull it out, but he says it's a strategy to for the Philippines to have an anchor in the area.
So, Mr. Laurel, did the Philippines never had a territorial claim over the Rongay Jiao in the past until they changed their discourse over in the early 2000s? What happened? Because according to international treaties such as treaties of Washington, treaties of Paris, or treaty between the UK and the US concerning the Philippines territory, the Rongay Jiao is clearly outside their territory.
Well, what the Philippines today is getting confused about, and it's even the Philippine position is not very clear because, of course, what they are claiming is EEZ, an exclusive economic zone based on the UNCLOS. However, even that does not apply because, as the arbitration panel discussed, the BRP Sierra Madre is a military ship. It's a naval ship. It disqualifies it for consideration under UNCLOS because a militarized situation cannot be resolved through UNCLOS. So it's a special case, and even the advocate of the claim of the Philippines over that area, Justice Carpio, has withdrawn his position that this BRP Sierra Madre can be used as an anchor for a claim.
Professor Lares, let me bring you in there. You see in the American press, for instance, that this is all about obstruction of navigation freedom, but they don't tell you a story about the ship grounded there as an anchor in the Philippine perspective for that piece of territory there.
Well, I wouldn't make such a fuss about the actual ship, and let me just,
why not?
If I may correct the speaker, there were actually serious tension in the South China Sea around the second Thomas Shoal in 2014, also in 2021 and 22. It didn't all start in 2023, and we all know that the UN Permanent Court of...
Yun, binaro siya, Kabsat. Tama, di ba? Sabi ko nga sa'yo, hindi naman 2023 nagsimula yung gulo talaga dun eh. 2014 pa lang sabi na itong Amerikano, may gulo na. Kasi nga...
Continue lang kasi hindi ko narinig yung nawala ako bigla.
Oh, sige. Balik ko. Sabi.
Why not?
If I may correct the speaker, there were actually serious tension in the South China Sea around the second Thomas Shoal in 2014, also in 2021 and 22. It didn't all start in 2023, and we all know that the UN Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016 said that the second Thomas Shoal is in the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. So it is sovereign Philippine territory. And if they wish to ground a ship there, they can do so. And they want to resupply the 12 or so soldiers on that ship every 2 or 3 weeks. And that is a problem that Chinese vessels do want to block that resupply of the ship. I think...
Yun, highlight lang natin yung pinagsabi niya, Kabsat. Sabi niya, noong 2000, hindi daw nagsimula yung gulo ng 2023 kasi yun ang, yun ang stand ni Herman Chu, yung kababayan natin. Pero mo, nakakahiya, Kabsat. Ang kumakampi pa sa atin.
Kapsat, FYI lang, yung gulo sa West Philippines Sea, panahon pa yon ni FEM.
Diba? Sabi ni simula doon nagsimula daw 2023 nung pumasok si BBM, sabi nito ni Herman Chu Laurel. Ngayon binabarasan nito. Sabi na itong Herman Chu na to. Sabi nga nung Amerikano, hello,
Okay, continue, Kapsat.
Hello. So, nagsimula na itong gulo na to, padaw pa ni FEM, di ba? So, sabi ni Herman Chu, 2023 lang daw nagsimula doon sa may Ayungin Shoal. Tahimik daw ang ngayon, sinasagot siya nung Amerikano. Sabi nung Amerikano, may gulo nga na nangyari noong 2014, may naggulo na nangyari noong 2021. Tapos, nagkaroon pa ng arbitration, di ba? So, nakakaya lang, Kabsat, mayroong Pilipinong representative, hindi kumakampi sa atin, pero yung Amerikano, kampi sa atin. Sabi ng Amerikano, isa pang highlight doon sa sinabi niya. Yung
Kapsat,
isla,
Kapsat, yung Amerikano, hindi naman yun kampi sa atin. Logic lang. Gusto lang yung totoong news, hindi fake news.
Kumbaga, kung ano talaga yung tama. Di ba? Sabi niya, ulitin ko sabi niya,
tension in the South China Sea around the second Thomas Shoal in 2014, also in 2021 and 22. It didn't all start in 2023. And we all know that the UN Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016 said that the second Thomas Shoal is in the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. So it is sovereign Philippine territory. And if they wish to ground a ship there, they can do so.
Medyo nagkamali lang siya doon kasi nasabi niya sovereign territory. Dapat sovereign rights lang sinabi niya. Baka mapuntusan siya doon Di ba? Di ba? Easy. Sovereign rights lang tayo, hindi sovereign territory. Kasi yung territory talaga natin, yung 12 nautical miles mula doon sa mga beaches natin, di ba? Bawa dyan sa Palawan. Yung pinaka dyan, 12 nautical miles, yun ang territory. Tapos yung mula 12 nautical miles nung 200 pa, yun na yung EEZ natin, di ba? Tama ba, Kabsat? Narinig ba ako, Kabsat? So yun ang pagkakaunawa ko doon, mga kababayan. Sige, tuloy natin.
And they want to resupply the 12 or so soldiers on that ship every 2 or 3 weeks. And that is a problem that Chinese vessels do want to block that resupply of the ship. I think the reading in China and the Western world and the Philippines is very, very different. But I think there is room for improvement here. We should not try to escalate the situation, but de-escalate the situation. We are talking about the resupply of a former ship, which is actually grounded, which cannot do anything. And is it really necessary to have a world crisis about the resupply of 12 soldiers on a semi-submerged reef in the South China Sea? I think this should not lead to international crisis. Even there is talk of war about that. And I think this is despicable. We should not be talking about war in the South China Sea when we talk about a submerged reef. And if I may that, there are rumors, and of course I don't know whether these rumors are correct, but there are rumors that the former Chinese ambassador to the US has said that China wants to take the second Thomas Shoal. I don't know if that is correct, but there are rumors in the press. And if that is correct, I think this is totally unacceptable. Okay, no one should take that ship or that reef.
I have to correct the speaker.
Laura wants to say something. Sorry,
yes.
Mr.
Well, the previous speaker is erroneous in saying that the Philippines is sovereign in an EEZ. Exclusive economic zone does not provide does not extend sovereignty. It only provides sovereign rights. So even in that case, the speaker is in error. Number
Tama naman siya doon, Kapsat. Pero mali pa rin siya na sinasabi niya ang hindi nag-extend yung sovereignty, di ba? Kaya nga may sovereign rights eh. Sovereign. Pero mali lang ng Amerikano, sinabi kasi ng Amerikano, sovereign territory. Di ba? Kapsat.
May mali din ng Amerikano, pero yung punto per punto niya, pabor sa atin.
Oo.
Parang choppy ako, Kapsat.
Hindi, okay lang. Buo ka, buo. Oo, buo.
Okay.
Pero pareho
Sige,
rin yun eh.
continue.
Sovereign, kaso nga lang, hindi territory, sovereign rights, di ba? Yung sovereign territory,
yung sa atin lang, Kapsat, yung territory, yung sabi nilang territory, parang sa lupa yun, yung may title na. Yun ba yun?
sige, tuloy natin ito, Kapsat. Kaya
Sige.
sana ito ni Herman Laurel eh. Kapal ng mukha niya ito. Tuloy natin.
Two, in the 25 years, that is over 8,500 days, the speaker spoke of 2 or 3 incidents. That is insignificant. But what happened after February 2023 was almost weekly
Kapsat.
incidents. This was
Nagsabi siya ng sabi niya 8,500 days mula ng 2023, wala naman nangyayari. Ang sinabi lang daw nung Amerikano, 3 incident lang, yung 2012, 2014, tsaka 2021. 3 lang daw yun out of 8,500 days na tahimik ang Pilipinas. Kaso, ang tanong doon, Kapsat, ano ba yung status ko nung, let's say, mga 4,000 days ago? Di ba? Siguro hindi naman ganun na maraming ship yung...
Kapsat.
Oh.
Kapsat. I-stop kita sa sabi nila. Sige, totoong 8,000. Ask the fishermen, mangingisda natin.
Oh.
Ilang buli kaya ginawa ng Coast Guard ng China?
Baka hindi lang.
Di ba?
Oo. Pero Kapsat, tingin mo ba nung panahon ni sabi na lang natin panahon ni Cory o panahon ni FEM. Siguro naman yung 8,500 days na sinasabi na itong walang yang na to. Abot hanggang doon sa mga time na yun eh. Tingin mo ba na nagkakaroon sila ng problema sa pangingisda noon? Tingin ko naman siguro hindi eh.
Hindi natin alam, Kapsat, kasi if mag-interview tayo ng mga fishermen, parang merong talaga.
Mga 1980s.
Yun, sinabi ko kanina ba? Di ba?
80s, 70s.
Sige. Hindi natin alam.
Sige, tuloy natin.
Deliberate and strategy of the Americans, as I said, what they called assertive transparency, which is to create a situation using provocations from the Philippine Coast Guard.
Parang parang linyahan nila, Amerika ang nagpapagalaw sa atin. Parang hindi na tayo nag-iisip. Di ba? Parang
hindi naman ganun, Kapsat.
Ito, sabi niya,
incidents.
Sabi niya.
The Americans, as I said, what they called assertive transparency, which is to create a situation using provocations from the Philippine Coast Guard. So it is very clear it is a strategy of the Americans to provoke tension and conflict in Asia.
Diba? Pilipino yung nagsasalita, Kapsat. Ang sabi niya,
hindi.
Sige. Go, Kapsat.
Nakakagigil, Kapsat. Sige, continue lang. Sige, continue. Ikaw muna.
Diba, maririnig mo sa isang Pilipino yung ganyan, Kapsat, na yung mga transparency operation ng Coast Guard, ang may dikta daw, Amerika. Kasi gusto ng Amerika magkaroon ng tension dito para magkagulo-gulo. Kumbaga, hindi daw something na pinaplano ng Pilipinas. Yan daw ay something na plano daw ng Amerika. Para daw tayo mga pinapalakad ng Amerika. Di ba? O ikaw, Kapsat, ano masasabi mo dyan?
Kapsat.
Ah,
Sa totoo lang, alam niyo, alam ng lahat 'yun ng Pinoy. Yung
ah,
totoong Pinoy. Kasi ang Americans, yung mga navy nila at military, makapasok lang sila kung merong law. 'Di ba?
di ba?
Yung visit BFA,
Ah,
yung MDT.
ah,
Wow, yun.
di
Hindi
ba?
sila basta-basta makapasok dito. Then noon, anong year yun? 1990s ata, yung nawala yung US
US
bases.
bases. Oo.
Oh, di ba, di ba?
Oy, tsaka
Hindi, wala silang power. Wala silang power sa atin.
si si Amy
Buang
Marcos,
talaga.
si Amy Marcos lang bantay sarado sila eh. 'Di ba?
Oh, 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 grabe. Sige, continue ka po.
Sige. Hindi ko lang alam,
Mr. Laris, you
Can I
want to
just
hindi ko lang
reply?
alam, Priscilla, kung kamag-anak ng DA Secretary kasi pareho silang Chu Laurel, natanong ko na rin yan dati. Eh. Baka coincidental lang, baka
Yung
nagkataon.
si Criset?
O yung
Yung si Criset ko?
ay, grabe yun.
Baka.
Baka.
Yeah,
Baka.
I mean,
Sige.
China has the largest coast guard in the world. The Philippines is a much smaller country with much smaller coast guard. It doesn't have the military capacity to provoke. It is clearly that the larger countries, the larger military, the larger coast guard is doing the provocation here. I think the Philippines is the underdog on this occasion, and I think we should try to de-escalate the situation rather letting it spin out of control.
Yeah,
You're
Klaus,
right.
you have
Talking
made
about
you have made a point that's on the mind of a lot of people, basically saying because China's size is bigger, so China is the bad guy here. I want to bring in Aina here. How do you react to that? Because we hear that argument all the time. It's like because of the size of China, it shouldn't do anything. Is that the case, or?
Oh, these are State Department talk.
Dapat lang wala na silang gawin kasi anong business silang maggagalaw doon sa dagat na napakalayo na sa kanila. Tama yung point ng malaking bansa na sila, ang laki ng navy nila bago nakikialam pa sila dito. But hindi na lang nila galawin kung ano yung EEZ nila around sa Hong Kong, around sa Hainan. Ba't nakakarating pa sila dito, di ba?
Kapsat. Let's recall, alam mo yung panahon ni Digong, ni Duterte, yung mga fishermen, yung binangga ng Coast Guard.
Ay, Denver.
Oh, yun, giba talaga. Kawawa sila, yung Vietnam ata, yung nagtulong sa kanila. Yun, hindi yun provocation. Iniwanan lang tayo ng buwisit na CCP China na yun.
Oo. Di ba? Ang tigas na mukha na itong mga to.
Grabe.
Tignan natin sabi niya itong...
Palakpak sa American. Palakpak.
Oo. Talagang malaki. Palapabro yung... Hindi naman sa kampi natin nagsasabi lang siya ng totoo.
Oo.
Trying to say,
Sabi ko kanina. Diba?
Oo. Medyo lang siya.
Hear that argument all the time. It's like because of the size of China, it shouldn't do anything. Is that the case, or?
Oh, these are State Department talk points. They're trying to say, oh, look, China's
points,
ganging up on little Philippines. But in fact, and even my colleague in Washington would have to admit that the U.S. is trying to provoke this. They're trying to have a situation where they can have another war, tension, whatever you want to call it, which is aimed at derailing Chinese economic efforts. I mean, ASEAN has been a bright spot for trade. It is now the number one. The Philippines has benefited from that. And what do you see the U.S. doing? Trying to separate it, trying to find willing proxies who are willing to do this. You know,
grabe to. Proxy daw, gagawin daw proxy ang Pilipinas. Willing proxy. Kapal na mukha talaga. Yeah. Oo, talagang umaangat yung ekonomiya ng ASEAN. Pero, kung pagkukumparahin mo, ba't sila bumabagsak, di ba? Mga kababayan. Kung talagang sigurado sila sa mga pinagsasabi nila na naikinabang ang Pilipinas sa ekonomiya ng China, ba't ang China bagsak ngayon? Ang Pilipinas tuloy lang ang pag-angat. Tinalo pa nga ng Pilipinas ang Thailand tsaka ang ano, ang Malaysia, Indonesia pagdating sa GDP. Isa lang yung sinasabi ng mga kababayan kabsat, hindi konektado ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas sa ekonomiya ng China. Maraming aspect ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Mali yung sinasabi ng inchik na to. Ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas may semiconductor na aspect na galing din sa Amerika. Tapos yung call center. Ang call center ng Pilipinas, isa maliban sa OFW, isa yan sa nakakatulong sa Pilipinas. So hindi pa sabi, ano lang ang pakinabang ng Pilipinas sa China? Pogo na puro illegal pa yung pinanggagalingan ng pera. Illegal yung mga aktibidad ng mga tao, natuturuan pa manghidnap, natuturuan pa magsugal yung mga ibang kapwa natin. Yun ang nailagay nila sa bansa natin. Pero yung mga BPO, call center, Amerika yan. So, hindi totoo yung sinasabi na itong inchik na to na ang China umaangat at nakikinabang ang Pilipinas. Tuloy natin mga kabsat.
My colleague in Washington also forgot to point out that this is completely illegal under international law. You cannot just sail ships onto shoals and claim them. This is an area which is claimed by 5 different countries. So,
yan, ito pa. Sabi niya, illegal daw yung paglalagay ng barko kasi kiniklaim daw yun ng kiniklaim daw ng 5 bansa yung lugar na yun. So kung illegal yun, dapat tigil din nila yung pag-occupy nila dun sa mga artificial island na pinaggagawa nila. Kasi illegal din yun eh. 'Di ba? Mas nauna nga silang nag-illegal na magawa. O di kung i-adapt natin yung logic niya, di sirain nila yung mga island na pinaggagawa nila kasi illegal yun eh. 'Di ba? Hindi ibig sabihin na pag Pilipinas illegal, pag kanila legal. Okay, tuloy.
This idea that somehow this is Philippines versus China is nonsense. All right, this was an illegal act, and it continues to be one, and it's a provocation that is being, puffed out by Washington in its desire to forestall, contain China.
Yeah, Ms. Yan, over the past, just a moment, over the past, how did the two countries manage the situation? Because this has been going on for 25 years, and yet it seemed that the two sides had a way of managing their differences. And what changed under President Marcos Jr.?
Yes, I think that in the past we do have many communication channels like the BCM, the bilateral consultative mechanism, and also I think the two sides, China and the Philippines, has a gentleman's deal. That's why the ship can stay there for the past 25 years because China, if it is for humanitarian reasons to send the food and waters, that China is okay with that, but not the construction material and is trying to change the status quo. At one point,
How do we know for sure? How do we know for sure that these are construction materials?
Because we can see it, it's all on their ship. It's all on the supply ship. It's very clearly to be seen on the.
Sinungaling. Anong nakita nyo? Hindi naman kayo nandun sa loob ng barko nang binobomba yung barko. Kitang-kita dun sa video ni Joseph Morong na walang construction material, puro mga blankong items nga lang, mga blanco, wala kang mabakas na semento man lang o kahit mga bakal. Mostly mga kahoy na nasira. Tapos yung isusupply sana na pagkain. Sinungaling to. Napakasinungaling. Hindi totoo yun. Hindi totoo yung pinagsasabi niyan. Diba? Tigas ng mukha.
On the scene. And also, I think one point that haven't been mentioned before is President Marcos is a very interesting person. We've talked a lot about the United States, but I think President Marcos is a very ambitious person. He wanted to leverage the big power competition and wanted to gain more defense budget from the...
Wow! Ambisyoso daw si Marcos, tsaka ginagamit niya daw yung posisyon para mapakinabang sa mga malalaking bansa. Tapos sabi niya, si Marcos daw, ginagawa daw yung mga bagay na to para makakuha ng pabor sa US, masupplyan ng ng mga armaments, ng mga defense system. Sige, for the sake of argument, sabihin natin totoo yun. Bakit ba nag-arise do'n? Bakit ba nagkagano'n? Bakit ba kinakailangang mag maging close dito sa US para makakuha ng pabor pagdating sa mga depensa? Dahil sa China. Dahil din sa kanila. Kung sila, itigil lang nila yung activity na yan. Halimbawa, umalis sila dyan. Sige, sa kanila na yung mischief reef. Sa kanila na yung mga fiery cross reef, tsaka ah, yung mga parasails, tsaka yung umalis sila dyan. Huwag silang makialam dun sa mula Kalayaan hanggang papasok. Huwag silang makialam dun. Doon lang sila mag-iikot doon sa mga lugar na may domain sila, yan sa mischief reef, yan sa fiery cross reef. Hindi na siguro kakailanganin ng Pilipinas yung mga EDCA na yan eh. 'Di ba? Baka sila pa yung nakakuha ng kontrata doon sa pagdidrill kung ganun sila kaayos. So hindi tama yung sinasabi na ito na pinaglalaruan ni Marcos yung dalawang mga malalakas na bansa. Pumapabor si Marcos sa US dahil sa kanila, dahil sa mga illegal na mga pinaggagawa nila.
Extra-regional countries like the US, Japan, and Australia. So I think this is a very important point to mention.
All right, let's take a look at. Yeah, Mr. Loro,
I have to add several points.
Yeah, just a moment. Just a moment. I have a timeline to give, and I give you the chance to speak right after that. So basically, let's take a look at what's been happening since the beginning of last year. For instance, in February last year, the Philippines decided it will give the U.S. access to 4 military bases in the Philippines, bringing the total number to 9. In September last year, Washington and Manila conducted a joint bilateral sail through parts of the South China Sea. From November last year to February this year, both navies, I mean the US and the Philippines, conducted what they call maritime cooperative activity on 3 occasions in the South China Sea. In late February this year, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. told the press after his speech at the Australian Parliament that he expects Canberra to stand alongside the Philippines in the South China Sea against China. Early March, Australia announced some $190 million in funding for.
Tangingot. Wala siyang sinabi na against China. Sabi niya, we will not, hindi niya isusuko yung teritoryo tsaka yung sovereign ng Pilipinas sa kahit anong foreign country. Wala siyang sinabing against China. Mga sinungaling itong mga to. Di ba, Kabsat, nung nagsalita si BBM sa Australia, wala naman siyang in-specify na against China eh. Sinabi niya lang, walang foreign country, walang foreign na maaaring sa sovereign ng Pilipinas. 'Di ba? Narinig mo ako, Kabsat? Sige. Tuloy ko lang
projects in areas including maritime security, and it was reported days ago that the US, the Philippines, and Japan would launch joint naval patrols in the South China Sea later this year. It's part of a package, as reported, a package of initiatives the 3 countries will unveil at their first ever trilateral summit this month. So, Mr. Loro, what is it that you wanted to tell us?
Well, we have evidence, of course, that there is a clear gentleman's agreement in a 2014 report, or several reports from 2014. Then Defense Secretary Voltaire Gasmin admitted to the press quite clearly that he had talked with Ambassador Ma Keqing of China at that time, that he is reiterating that the commitment to deliver only food and humanitarian supplies is what is agreed upon. And he says that definitely the Philippines will not be delivering construction materials. The second point I have to make is that there is a U.S. military website, War Zone, with an article in around February or March last year, which announces that the U.S. needs to establish the combined operating base Sierra Madre in that very same spot. So it is very clear that it is an American plot to advance its war in Asia, which, by the way, one of our military analysts, General Victor Corpus, has said the aim of the U.S. in the pivot to Asia is to create tension and war in the region, not to win, because the U.S. cannot win against China in Asia, but to...
Mga kababayan, Ang galing nito. Sabi niya, hindi daw. Hindi daw kayang manalo ng Amerika sa China sa Asia. Ang tigas ng mukha. Kung gugustuhin lang ng US, kaso nga lang, talagang malaki ang impact sa buong mundo kung magigera yung dalawa eh. Kung gugustuhin lang ng US, kayang-kaya nilang tunawin ng China, nakapalibot sa kanila 300 bases ng China. Meron pang base sa South Korea, may base sa Japan. Tapos ngayon, meron pa sa Singapore. Meron pa sa...
Kapsat. Kapsat. Yung China, medyo delicate din. Kasi meron silang 92 ports all over the world. Dati yan, 109 ata, 110. Then, naging 92 na lang. Then, 10 doon, own. Majority own. Parang 40% to 100% own China. Then 13 doon, for naval use, pwede.
Pero, kabsat, di ba, nakapalibot sa kanya 300 bases.
Matindi yun, Kapsat, kasi yung, alam mo ba yung Malacca Strait?
Yung Malacca.
Alam mo ba yun?
Sa may Singapore.
One third ng global trade, yung India, yung Kapsat, Malacca Strait. Then going to Suez Canal. Malapit din sa Singapore. Then, sige, continue ka. Ang matindi dito, kina-corner na nila yung India, Europe, Asia. Gusto rin nilang pasukin yung Pacific. Diba, pumunta sila ng Benham Rice. So, ang gusto nilang sakupin, 2/3 ng world, China.
Pero kabsat, sa level ng military capacity ng China at US ngayon, abot na ba China o...
Ampaw ang China. Ampaw ang China kapag. Kasi yung may balita, legit yun. Yung mga missiles nila, yung mga jet planes nila, pati yung, ito, matindi ito. 3 ata sa nila, yung, ano ba yun, aircraft carrier. Dating Russian, ginawa nilang new. Parang concept ba, yung old na ginawa nilang bago ba? Then, napaka-ampaw yung nila. Yung aircraft carrier nila. Pati yung mga military nila, training. Daming palpak.
di ba, parang balita rin yung mga rocket fuel nila, ginagawang pangluto.
Yun. Yun, alam mo. Totoo yun. Yun, nakalimutan ko yun ang gusto kong isabi. Sige, Kapsat. Sige. Totoo yun. Nagagatawa. True.
The aim of the US in the pivot to Asia is to create tension and war in the region, not to win, because the US cannot win against China in Asia.
Diba? US cannot win in China with China in Asia daw. Grabe talaga.
But to depress the Asian economy and Chinese economy by at least 30% decline of its GDP. The same thing that the US is doing to the European Union today and Germany. So I think it is very naive for the other party a while ago to say that this is the China bullying. In fact, China's massive navy and coast guard and volunteer militia, maritime militia, is an advantage because it does not have to use lethal force. It uses tactics and strategies to blockade the delivery of construction materials that the Americans want to use to repair BRP Sierra Madre.
Okay. Mr. Laris, you want to chip in here?
Yeah, I mean, this is all not very convincing. This is really thinking in conspiracy terms. If there's an article in a military newspaper, that doesn't, of course, mean that the US government is behind it. I can see no reason why the US government wants to provoke instability in the South China Sea. The United States has immense trade and Gaza, it is not interested in having another crisis on its hands. And the reason why there is close cooperation with the Philippines, Australia, and other countries, Japan and South Korea, is of course that they all fear China, that China's action and China's assertive, to put it mildly, assertive behavior in the South China Sea, and it claims to 90% of the South China Sea, has
Tama, Kapsat, di ba? Hindi naman kasi magkakaganyan yung mga reaction ng mga bansang yan kung hindi dahil sa attitude ng China, di ba? Di ba? Hindi
Oo, Kapsat.
hindi naman magkakaroon ng interoperability ng mga joint training yung mga bansang yan, kundi dahil din sa China. Di ba?
FYI lang, Kapsat, kawawa tong si Klaus. Siya lang isa yung totoong nagbalita. Fake news ang tatlo.
Fake news yung tatlo di ba? Siya lang talaga nakariringgan mo ng pinagkakaisahan nga siya. Kaya nga yung title ng ko, 3 against 1 eh. So, di ba?
Kaya pala.
Oo. Yan lang sabihin mo sa China eh. Bakit ka nagparami ng barko? Bakit? Anong purpose mo? Ba't nagparami ka? Pinalaki mo Navy mo. Samantalang noon, ang postura mo lang, ang appearance mo lang sa buong mundo, negosyante ka lang. Kaya nga hindi ka masyadong hindi masyadong paranoid sa yung mga ibang bansa kasi nga feeling nila mababait kayong tao na ang
Ito Kapsat, i-comment kita. Alam mo ba yung news sa India? India. Sige, balitaan kita. Alam mo ba yung spy ship? 3 na ata yung spy ship andun sa malapit sa port ng India.
Yun sa yun sa may
sabi.
Tsaka sa
Sige, ikaw magsalita, Kapsat.
Diba sa Bangladesh ba yan? Meron silang po sa Hambantota Port. Diba?
Hindi yun Bangladesh, Kapsat. Yung Hambantota Port, sa kuan yun, sa Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, di ba?
Oh, Sri Lanka.
Parang nagpapadasa yung may mga malaking radar na ship.
Yun. Yung sabi ng China, napaka-bully talaga tong mga buwisit na to. Buwisit talaga. Nabibwisit na talaga ang India sa kanila. Sa totoo lang.
Ayan, pansinin mo, Kapsat. Yung India na yan, napaka-neutral yan. Yung most karamihan pa nga ng mga armaments niyan galing Russia eh.
Hindi na sila nag-neutral, Kapsat. Hindi na sila nag-neutral. Nag-alliance na sila sa Pilipinas.
Oo, di ba? Nagsasalita na sa...
Alam mo ba yun, yung meeting nila ni Manalo?
Oo.
Sa Indian Defense Secretary?
Oo.
Confirm na, nag-alliance tayo. Yung sa Quad, Kapsat, alam mo ba yun? Quad?
Oo, Quad. India, Japan, Australia.
Kasapi na tayo. Ang Pinas, kasapi na. Kasapi na tayo sa Quad. Pinapasok tayo ng US, Japan, at Quad. Anong country pa yun? Sa India. May isa pa yun. Yung
Australia.
Nakalimutan mo. Australia. Good. Sige, continue.
Kasi nga, walang yan sila. Tuloy natin. Tuloy.
really intimidated other countries.
So I will ask the speaker, why is ASEAN quiet? Why is ASEAN supporting the Philippines?
The reading in China and in the Western world is very, very different, and there's no point to really talk about
So,
that
Mr.
because it
Laris,
differs so much.
Professor Laris, why is the US so active in reestablishing its military presence in the Philippines? If the US is not interested in stirring up trouble, why does it acquire for more access to
having a few bases in the Philippines doesn't mean instability. China has a military base.
Sige, Kapsat. May sabihin ka.
Military base. Sinong nagawa dyan ng pre-artificial fully militarized na naval artificial islands sa territory pa natin. Hindi ba yun provocation? Di ba? Grabe. Continue, Kapsa.
Diba? Ang titigas na mukha niya itong mga to.
In Djibouti, no one claims that China is creating instability in Djibouti. Having military bases doesn't mean you are creating
400 military bases? You're kidding
Yes,
me. How can you say this kind of
yes.
nonsense?
I
This is
could
incredible. There have been innumerable.
Sinabi na rin nila, 400 military bases around China daw. Kaya, yan, sabi mo nga, China, nagkalat din pala yung bases nila bukod pa doon sa dagat. Diba?
Ito ka sana, yung bases sila, Africa, Europe, Asia. Gusto rin nila yung Americas.
Diba? Sa Latin America, meron din siguro sila dun eh. Dahil malapit din
Sa
sila.
Brazil, Peru ata, o Mexico, Ecuador, meron sila.
Kakapal ng mukha.
White Defense Department identifying that they want to engage China in the Asiatic regions, and you're just simply denying reality. Now, I know this is very popular in Washington to have a counter narrative that just says, "Oh, no, we're not doing anything." The fact is, the U.S. has declared their intention time and time again, and you pretending is less than honest.
And it's really very unfortunate for the Philippines because the Philippines today
Okay,
is
Mr. Lauro, please. Mr. Lauro, you go ahead. Yeah, you wanted to say.
and the situation is very unfortunate for the Philippines, which was united under President Duterte for the independent foreign policy, and the Philippines had been working very well together.
Ano sabi mo, Kapsat? Unite.
Wow! Duterte talaga. Sige, continue, Kapsa.
Kapal ng mukha.
For prosperity and peace in the region until 2023. Let us make that distinction when BBM Bongbong Marcos started approving all these military bases. This is part of the Asia Pivot which has been in the works for the past decade and a half. So this is a strategic move of the U.S. Now, as I said, we are thankful China is employing non-lethal means in controlling the situation, and that is possible because
Pasalamat pa daw sa China, Kapsat. Grabe.
Sige, continue, Kapsa.
Ano kaya sinisinghot na ito?
of its size, but the Philippines and the U.S. are trying to use this victim card. How the Philippines are all
Stop mo. Victim. Grabe, victim. Victim, yung sabi nila anong pangalan tong tao to? Nakalimutan ko. Yung sabi nilang victim, parang sinabi niya pa-victim.
Oh, pa-victim.
Pa-victim. Pa-victim tayo. Na-water cannon tayo ilang beses. Pa-victim yun.
Pa-victim yun. Ang tigas pala nito. Naturing ang Pilipino. Yun mo, marami na nasugatan. Sugat-sugatan na yung mga sundalo. Victim card pa ba yun? Di ba? Ang kapal na buka.
David versus giant Goliath. No, China has been using very peaceful means, and the malice is really coming from the Bongbong government. Even the presidential sister, the sister of Bongbong Marcos, Senator Amy Marcos, has been contradicting the president on these issues. So we are getting divided. We are getting distracted from economic development.
Kayo lang.
Investments are coming down to zero now. They're expecting the
Kamsat.
Zero daw, Kamsat. Zero
daw.
Sarap sampalin mo. Sampalin mo, Kamsat.
Grabe. Ano ba yung sampal, Kamsat? Di ko alam yung sampal eh. Ano ba? Ito ba yun? Ay, mali. Grabe. Zero investment daw, Kamsat. Samantalang, di ba yung kahuli-huli ang number ng investment? Nasa trillion na yata o billion. Di ba?
Parang yata. Hindi ko na alam yung figures.
Oo. Ito, may
Americans to come in, but the recent trade mission did not deliver anything.
Oh.
All right. Ms. Yan Yan,
Kabsat, yung trade mission daw ng Amerika, yung may nagkaroon ng $100 million na kasunduan, wala daw nangyari.
Sa
Diba?
kanila, bulag sila, walang nangyari. Sa
Diba?
totoo lang, marami nangyari.
Wala daw nangyari yun sa yung kaya yung mga pumuntay negosyante rito sa Malacanang, yung parang nakaraan.
Wala kasi nangyari sa kanila kasi hindi sila part ng kabinete. Diba?
Tags na ulit. Ano ito, kabsat. Tuloy lang.
Jump in there, that's fine. And there's much talk of invoking a mutual defense treaty that's signed in the 1950s between the Philippines and the United States. The U.S. Secretary of State, the so-called Indo-PACOM leader, Admiral John Aquilino, and the U.S. Defense Secretary have all talked about the possibility of invoking the so-called mutual defense treaty. What is the U.S. doing by constantly reiterating their so-called ironclad commitment to such a treaty? Is that treaty applicable here?
Well, actually, first of all, I don't think that the United States is ready to go to a maritime conflict with China for the Philippines, even though it's an ally. But I think the United States is happy to see there's this dispute and this skirmishes between China and the Philippines because it can drag China down. And then secondly, about the MDT, I think the United States has been very cautious to make the Philippines a commitment of whether this arm attack on the vessels, aircrafts, and public vessels is equals to the arm attack on the island territories in the South China Sea. Well, they never make very accurate commitment given the MDT Article 4. And also, secondly, the United States didn't say.
Kapsat, hindi daw nagbigay ng commitment ang Amerika na yung kung ano man yung mangyari sa South China Sea, pagtatanggol nila. Di ba?
Itong babae ito. Parang yung boses na nakakairita. Hindi ko na maririnig. Mabilis magsalita.
Yeah.
Sige, continue ka po.
Ulitin ko, Kapsat. Ulitin ko. Sige, ulitin ko yung sinabi niya. Pakinggan mo,
between China and the Philippines because it can drag China down. And then secondly, about the MDT, I think the United States has been very cautious to make the Philippines a commitment of whether this arm attack on the vessels, aircrafts, and public vessels is equals to the arm attack on the island territories in the South China Sea. Well, they never make very accurate commitment given the MDT Article 4. And also, secondly, the United States didn't say that.
Dalawa yung highlight doon, Kabsat. South China Sea, tsaka yung attack. Diba? So, sinungaling.
For my opinion, Kapsara, yung MDT takot na takot sila. Yun, true yun.
Totoo yung Kabsat.
Yun lang.
Mga sinungaling.
Using of a water cannon by the China Coast Guard is equals to an armed attack to the Philippines. So these two things I think is very important, which by that I mean that's my personal thinking that the United States doesn't want to go to a conflict with China.
But it's making a lot of noise. It's posturing about, we are going to stand next to the Philippines up against China, and you have the press, making a big show about China being the bully. What is going on here? Is there some kind of not conspiracy, I wouldn't say conspiracy, but obviously there's a strategy here. What are they trying to achieve, according to you?
I think the President Marcos is giving a pressure on the United States, trying to make its ally, making more detailed commitment to the Philippines. And the United States also wanted to see China is distracting by our maritime disputes with our neighboring countries. Well, it's definitely the United States' interest to see that, to maintain its own priority, in the region. Okay. Well, that's the truth. But I think the United States is, although orally they make many commitments, they say they will help the Philippines to go against China, but so far we didn't see much physical, actions.
Mr.
Wow. Siguro, totoo naman yung Kamsat, wala talagang physical action na ginagawa ang Pilipinas laban sa China. Totoo naman siguro.
Yung sabi niya, yung gusto niya yung Pilipinas first magtira ng bullets sa kanila. Yun ang gusto ng babae ko.
Oo, di ba?
Di ba?
Oo, tama.
Madali lang magets.
Mga mandru.
I'm going to give you the opportunity, but keep it short, please. If the U.S. is really, interested in seeing peace in the South China Sea, shouldn't it try to constrain or, talk to the Philippines and China and sit down and talk to each other instead of sending more military vessels involved in more military exercises in the region?
The United States is not interested in peace in any.
Kasi at tinatanong, yung Amerikano, ang sumasagot
No comment, Kamsat. Ikaw na lang.
Walang yan. Ulitin natin na, Kamsat.
Ulit mo. No comment.
Tinatanong, pakinggan mo kung sino tinatanong ha. Talaga to si Laurel para magpasiklab lang sa mga amo niya eh.
More military vessels involved in more military exercises in the region. I'm going to give you the opportunity.
Commitments. They say they will help the Philippines to go against China, but so far we didn't see much physical, actions.
Mr. Laris, I'm going to give you the opportunity, but keep it short, please. If the U.S. is really, interested in seeing peace in the South China Sea, shouldn't it try to constrain or, talk to the Philippines and China and sit down and talk to each other instead of sending more military vessels involved in more military exercises in the region?
The United States is not interested in peace in any part of the world. As we have seen, they had conducted invasions in Asia, the Eurasian continent, everywhere else in the world, and now they have been concerned about the rise of Asia. Now we are being called, we're hearing this Asian century. They want to disrupt that.
Okay.
So that the U.S. can maintain its hegemony.
All right. This question was for Professor Laris. Professor Laris, yes, please go ahead.
So sobrang gusto, siguro Kamsat, sobrang gusto magpasiklab doon sa mga inchik kasi China network yun eh. Hindi niya alam.
May ikaw naman sila, may punto naman. Kasi noon naman, totoo naman may invasion naman sila, US. Pero sa Asia, wala talaga. Walang ginawa ang US. Yung sa sa Vietnam ata yun. Vietnam War, no? Yun lang sa Asia. Pero sa ibang, meron pa sa Afghanistan. Yun lang, dalawa. Wala naman totally kinakonquer nila ang Asia, ang US, wala naman.
Actually, yung
diba?
napanood mo yung live ko kahapon sa Vietnam, tungkol sa Vietnam. Ang ganda nga ng ko doon kasi paano kaya kung ang Vietnam may Amy Marcos tsaka lalabang kaya sila sa Amerika?
Napanood ko yun, Gapset.
Tuloy ko na ito, Gapset.
Talking and to each other. Can I just say something? Talking to each other is, of course, always a good idea. But what would happen if the Chinese military rammed a Philippine boat and it went down? Would that be interpreted as an armed attack on the Philippines?
So why would the Philippine boat be going there?
That situation. Can you please continue?
Grabe, Kamsat to.
Stop. Sige, na-stop mo. Loko talaga itong si Chuno. Itribida mo. Itribida mo.
Ang senaryo ng Amerikano, paano kung may milisya na bumangga sa na lumubog yung barko ng Pilipinas?
Interpreted as an armed attack. So talking and to each other, can I just say something? Talking to each other is, of course, always a good idea. But what would happen if the Chinese military rammed a Philippine boat and it went down? would that be interpreted as an armed attack on the Philippines?
So why
think
would the
that
Philippine boat be going there
That situation.
to get
Can you
rammed?
please continue without you interfering? This
Grabe. Sinisisi pa yung binanggang barko kung nangyari daw yun. Sabi niya,
Sinabi ko na kanina,
di ba?
iniwanan lang tayo ng buwisit na CCP China na Coast Guard na yan. Yung
So,
bangka natin.
So, kung sa
Di ba?
perspective niya, sa perspective ni Herman Chu Laurel, yung iniwanan ng China, kasalanan pa ng mga...
Herman pala, Herman.
O, yan,
Herman
si Chu.
palang loko.
Kasalanan pa ng mga malulunod na Pilipino. Walang God.
situation
You
needs to
interfered.
be
You are the one who interfered.
And-
This is, the question is,
Yeah,
There
please.
is a
Yung barko natin, walang ginawa. Nag-standby lang yun. Ang ship, sabi sa kapitan. Then natulog ang kapitan, biglang tinagising siya ng mga staff niya. Binangga na sila ng buwisit na China na yan, Coast Guard. Sinong may kasalanan? Nag-provoke. Kagutong Herman naman ang pangalan ng buwis.
Dapat tinatanggal niya rin Laurel kasi tuna yung apelyido niya kasi hindi na siya Pilipino eh. Hindi man lang siya naawa doon sa mga malulunod na Pilipino, di ba? Hindi na paiging Pilipino.
defense treaty Philippines and the United States. Of course, the United States doesn't want to invoke that defense treaty. It is warning repeatedly for China to be very careful what it does so that defense treaty doesn't need to be invoked, so that no counteraction needs to be taken. This is meant as a good warning. It is not meant as aggressive action. And I think we should see how dangerous the situation is and try to de-escalate on all sides, including on the side of China.
Palakpak.
Diba? Yun ang
Really running out.
Yun ang dapat sinasabi talaga sa kanila eh.
Time. I have to block you here because I have two more guests. I want to leave some time before the show wrap up. Aina, what is your reaction? Give it within 30 seconds, please.
Well, I totally disagree. I mean, these are, as I said, State Department talk points aimed at somehow convincing the world that China's at fault. If there's any bully in the world, it's the United States. They're stand alongside Ukraine. They're standing alongside Gaza. They did wonderful things in Afghanistan. Iraq is a mecca now because of what they've done.
All right. Yan, how is China going to react if it believes that there is this intention to drag China into this unnecessary conflict?
I think first of all, the Philippines needs to exercise more self-restraint in terms of our dispute in the South China Sea. And secondly, for the United States, we do see a report released last week about the United States increase largely its military activities in the South China Sea, which I think is a strategic deterrence to China, which I think everybody should be...
Kabsat, ang laki daw ng military activities ng Amerika sa South China Sea. Sino ba maraming barko sa South China Sea ngayon, di ba? Tingin mo,
malaki naman yung naval nila. Yung naval fleet nila malaki naman. Totoo.
Di ba? Tapos sabihin na itong babaeng to, ang malaki daw ang ginagawa nga sa South China Sea, US. Ang malaki yung nakikipag-partner yung mga bansa na nakapalibot sa China sa US. Kasi dahil sa kalokohan ng China. Di ba?
Oo, totoo naman. Ang maganda dito, Kapsat, yung may plano naman si PBM, yung sa ASEAN, normalized, yung parang NATO natin ba sa ASEAN. Laman mo yun, Kapsat.
Maganda.
Diba?
Pay more attention to. And thirdly, I think I really hope that the BCM, the communication mechanisms, and also the hotline between Coast Guards between China and the Philippines should keep going and resume.
All right. We are going to leave it there. Many thanks to my guest, Yang Yan, Director of the Research Center of Oceans Law and Policy at the National Institute for South China Sea Studies, Ina Tangen, Senior Fellow at Taihe Institute, Klaus Lares, a Fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Center, and Richard M. Krasno, Distinguished Professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and Herman Teoloro, President of the think tank Asian Century Philippines Strategic Studies Institute. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to the end of this special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. On behalf of the whole team, thank you for watching. You've got the point.
Alright, Kapsat. Natapos na yung nakaka-high blood na yung ano.
Kapsat, sunog sila sa American. Sunog sila. Tatlo versus isa lang. Sunog sila.
3 and 1. Talaga ano. So yung mga highlight doon.
Sunog.
Oo, sunog. So kahit anong sabihin nila.
May intention talaga yung Kapsat, yung nag-interview?
Talagang gusto niyang drugin talaga yung kung ano man yung point
yung,
na
yung kinuha nila talaga yung makapiling Pinoy. Kaya pala sabi sa thumbnail mo, Tador na Pinoy. Kaya pala.
Kasi kakasat hindi ko masabing traidor o yan, nasabi ko rin dito. So, yun nga Kapsat, mga kababayan, di ba, Kapsat Infinite, na-highlight doon na talagang ang China.
Anong conclusion mo, Kapsat?
Ang China, Kapsat, sa tingin ko sa opinion ko lang, ang China talaga, hindi niya pinapahalagaan kung ano yung point of view ng Pilipinas, ng gobyerno. Parang dinidisregard niya yan. Ang tingin niya sa hindi niya alam yung ginagawa niya. Alam niya yun. Pero yun lang gusto niyang ipakita na ang China, ang Pilipinas, walang bilang. Ang kinakikita niya ginagawa na desisyon ng Pilipinas, hindi niya desisyon. Desisyon ng US na ini-influensya sa Pilipinas. Yun ang tingin kong inaano niya Kaya nga imbes na mag-invite sila ng Pilipino na may paninindigan, ang in-invite nila yung baka talagang pabor sa kanila. Pero yung US, nag-invite sila ng kontra talaga sa kanila kasi yun nga gusto nila ipakita na ang US, ito talaga ang point of view niya. Tapos, pagtutulong-tulungan nila. Kaso, ang ganda ng mga pinagsabi ng Amerikano Talagang kung ano yung dapat sabihin sa kanila, sinabi talaga sa kanila, Kapsat. Di ba? Ikaw, anong take mo doon sa...
Sa akin lang, Kapsat. Hindi naman totally conclusion ito. Simple lang. Ang gusto ng China, di ba sabi nila, pino-point out nila yung US, Amerika, bully, di ba? Yung sabi nila, yung pino-point nila, bully. Ito ang ginawa ni PBBM, di ba? January, pumunta siya ng China last year. Then pagbalik niya, parang hindi naman sabihing luhaan, parang ganyan na lang. Ito ang nangyari. Pumunta siya ng US. So, bright talaga, mataas ang IQ ng Pangulo natin. Bully versus bully. Tumpak. Diba?
Wala.
Simple lang.
Basic na basic. So, ito mga Kabsat. Kasi, para bago tayo matapos, Kabsat, kaya napapalive din ako madalas kasi nga alam mo na yung recent survey na natin medyo although hindi pa naman conclusive yun medyo nawawala yung natin pero siguro
i-shoutout mo sila lahat Kapsat. Nandyan sa Comsec, i-shoutout mo sila lahat.
Sige. Siguro, hindi pa lang talaga siya nagpapahayag, Kapsat, kasi pag nagpahayag siya ng maaga, sabi nga ni Coach Jarrett, wag ka muna magpahayag Sabi niya, pero tingin ko, baka may plano rin siya pero sana tuloy niya. kung sino man kabsat yung maaaring magpatuloy ng consistency tsaka ng continuity ng mga policy ni BBM, it's either si Speaker Martin o si Gibo. So ako, medyo nag-aano kay Gibo. Kaya yan, Gibo 2028. So mag-share lang.
Ito.
Ah,
Ito, Kapsat. Di ba sabi
Ah.
mo yung last one mo, di mo Gibo? Oh, Gibo talaga.
Gibo, di ba?
Promote na natin, Gibo for president.
Oh.
Inisin natin sila lahat.
So as early as now,
Gibo president 2028. Yun.
Ano yung mga commonality, yung mga parang equal attitudes nila ni BBM, mararamdaman mo eh. So ito, share ko lang to Kabsat bago tayo magtapos.
Well, of course, Filipinos are naturally resilient. That's why they will survive any crisis. And hopefully, the young generation does not lose the value of kawanggawa bayanihan. I hope the individualism doesn't become so much as to overtake the values of, helping your neighbor. It's resilience, really. My dream of the Philippines is one which actually is an innovator, because human capital is really a strength and an asset of our country. But we have to transform this human capital into something which is innovative, which creates emerging and disruptive technologies. And we can't do this on our own. No? Naturally, we have to have people who fill the demands of the job market. But on the other hand, we have to subsidize also R&D in this country so that we become originators rather than outsource destinations. That's the number one. Number two, for me, I'd like to see really more devolution of powers to hubs in several areas. That's the only way that you will stop the migration of people to our areas. Thirdly, we really have to invest in our digital infrastructure, hardware, digital architecture, and digital hygiene of our people too.
Kabsat. Di ba? Parang pareho-pareho sila
Yun, innovator si yung si Top Master by exam si Gibo. Sa hindi pa nakaalam ba, di ba? 1989 yun? Bar Top Master. Hindi ko yun alam, Kapsat. Yung last mo na live, last, hindi. Yung kay Rapi, yun, Rapi? Oo. Di ba sabi mo, 1989, Bar Top Master, ha? Hindi ko alam yun, Kapsat.
Top-notcher siya, Kabsat.
Lalo nga akong gusto ko si Gibo. Di ba? Parang na-hype tayo. Lalo.
Oo.
Di ba?
Di ba, kaysa kay Tulfo, kaysa kay Sara na pro-child. Di ba? Siguro nga kung meron lang magkakaroon ng konting challenge, talagang pag-uusap lang.
Yes, number 1, number 2 ang dalawa, yung highest paid vlogger. Di ba?
Diba?
Si Miss No Comment, number 2. Grabe.
Imagine mo na lang, Kabsat, kung ano lang inaabot na mga activity ni Tulfo. Puro chismisan lang, di ba, Kabsat?
Hindi yung chismisan lang, Kabsat.
Di ba?
Ang kay Rapi, yun? From homewrecker to... Di ba alam mo yan? Alams mo na yan. Homewrecker to...
To ano?
Kapsat.
Ano?
Hindi mo alam?
Hindi ko alam eh. Homewrecker to... Ano ba?
Gusto daw niya na family stays together.
Wow.
Di ba,
Wow.
yung mga kabit-kabit nila na mga issue.
Oh. Imagine mo
May
kabsat,
voter.
imagine mo ini-interview si Gibo ng foreign country kung paano siya mag-deliver. Mababakas mo si BBM, di ba? O magsalita siya sa mga international event na nag-i-invite ng mga investor. Wala akong masasabi.
Kaya nga kapsat, same feather flock together in positive way. Si
Oo.
President natin, BBM, di ba, mataas ang IQ. Di nakukunin ninyo, mataas din IQ. Di ba?
Oo.
Di ba?
Tsaka
Simple lang.
kaya push
Para lang
natin.
kanina kapsat, yung bully versus bully. Di ba?
Tama, kabsat. Tama, kabsat. Okay, tatapos na tayo. Shoutout lang natin yung mga nandito. Si Aren 2 cents. Thank you so much, Aren 2 cents, sa pagpunta dito. Si Mel Warren. Teka, lagyan ko nga ng jacket si Mel Warren. Okay, moderator. Yan. O, moderator ka na, Mel Warren. And of course, si Iris. Tapos si Priscilla Acepcion. Tapos si Ai Chang. Thank you, Ai Chang. Thank you sa pagbisita niyo lahat dito. Maraming salamat. At sana itong munting activity natin, itong munting mga tinig natin, lumakas pa, masabi natin sa lahat kung paano tayo sumusuporta kay Gibo Tudor. Tsaka kung paano natin ina-highlight yung mga pambubuli ng China tsaka yung mga unfair na treatment na nare-receive natin sa kanila. So, any last words mo, Idol Infinite? Ano ba masasabi mo? Any words mo?
Huwag mo sabihin akong idol. Bad yun, bad. Hindi tayo idol. Back to basics lang, kapsat. Yung gusto ng president natin, di ba, balik tayo sa PI, Econ Chacha. Gusto niya madaming work, madaming kita. Kasi kung maraming business na foreign investors dito papasok sa Pinas, maraming taxes, maraming work, marami lahat. Susunod na yung mga bigas-bigas na gusto nilang 20 pesos per kilo. Hindi naman yan, kanang makukuha natin saglit din. Pupunta din tayo din.
Tama, kapsat.
Mababa din prices. Maraming competition. Yun.
Tama. Maraming competition, maraming innovation, maraming chances na serbisyo magandang ma-receive yung mga Pilipino. Imagine mo, kapsat, ito lang, recent lang, nag-invest ang Taiwan dito. Yung motor na electric. Taiwan.
Kailan, kapsat? Kailan? Hindi ko alam.
Di ba? So yun.
Hindi ko alam yan.
Tuloy natin yung kabsat. At sa maikling panahon, hanggang sa 2028, magkita-kita tayo. So salamat. Ha?
Magkita talaga tayo, hindi tayo bulag. Hindi tayo bulag na pareho ng mga ebullient dyan, na mga DBS dyan.
Tsaka,
Hindi tayo ganun.
Ito pa, Absat, ito pa yung isang innovation na parang gusto kong iangat natin yung level na ng kamalayan natin sa sa pagpili ng kandidato eh. Tama na yung mga balahura yung bibig, tama na yung mga sikat. Kailangan na natin ngayon yung may talino, yung may galing katulad niya nila Gibo Tudor. Tama na yung naranasan na natin si Duterte showy talagang tuwan-tuwa tayo na nagmumura siya, pinagmumura niya yung mga disenteng tao, yung pala.
Kapsat, natatawa ako sa'yo. Matalino din si Duterte. Marunong mambudol.
Di ba, natuwa. Kasi, di ba, yung pinalitan niya si Pinoy, medyo, mabagal, galing sa pamilya ng mga mayayaman. Kaya, parang dalandala ang mga tao kasi parang, naghahanap sila ng action man. O di, Duterte. Tapos talagang para nakaka-relate sila kasi talagang parang ordinaryong tao na nagmumura. Eh yung
Kapsat,
pala,
kapsat, kapsat.
oh,
Yung sabi mong action man, wala naman talagang ginawang maraming action si Duterte.
oh,
Yung umaksyon sa kanya, di ba, yung drug war niya.
yun, di
Maraming
ba?
patay. Maraming patay. Yun, action.
Oo. Kaya nga, kabsat, panahon na ngayon para iangat natin yung level ng kasi umaangat na din naman yung bansa natin. Kailangan iangat na natin ng todo. Ayun na, si Gubo na tayo. So, salamat kabsat. Sa susunod, baka bukas mag-live ulit
Salamat,
ako.
kapsat. Salamat.
Panibagong
Good.
debate. Salamat sa mga dumalaw. See you tomorrow.
Kahit medyo choppy yung connection natin, nakiraos pa rin. Naraos din.
Naraos natin.
Pasensya talaga sa Tagalog ko. Bisaya.
Ayos. Kung gusto mo, susunod, iangat natin pa yung level. English naman. Kasi
Pwede, kapsat. Next time, kapsat. Hindi lang tayong dalawa. May isa, tatlo tayo, co-host. Parang
sige.
masaya yan.
Sige.
Sino kaya?
Yan si Iris tsaka si Ai Chang, Yan, si Aren 2 cents.
Ako, si Ai 2 cents. Magaling yan. Lodi ko yan.
Nakapin naman yung nakapin yung link ko. Akit kayo. Bigay kayo ng
Next time na lang. Next time na lang. Next time.
Sino ba to? Sino ba yun? Yung lagi ding naakyat sa...
Kapsat. Gusto din ni Go Philippines umakyat ako sa live niya. Ipin ko sa iyo yung next live niya. Hindi ko rin alam yung FB niya. Hanapin ko.
At sakit tayo.
Kukulab tayo ni Go Philippines. Maganda yun. Sige. Try ko.
Paalam sa lahat.
Bye.
Bukas,
Bye-bye.
Tayo, magde-develop lang akong topic. Salamat. See you around.